Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Thousands of years ago, a puddle of slime had a bad dream, and from that slime crawled human beings, and from that bad dream grew the curse of sentience that has plagued humankind since that first slimy birthday. Now, in the distant cosmos, the ballad of humanity's folly plays out. A race of beings obsessed with their own destruction, and with making movies about the future. Bad movies about a stupid future. Ballads and tales and fables and prophesies of the year 1998. In the year 1990.
It's the future, Tom.
Yes.
How does it feel?
It feels pretty good, Future Dave.
Yeah. Have you eaten a lot of rats today?
I don't dare. You don't, because what would happen if, one of the Wasteland mutants saw us and then snitched on us to the Rat Queen? Because
God, you're right.
Because she has, Her Majesty has a standing bounty, a standing snitch bounty reward for anyone caught eating her children or trying to distribute literature about.
Oh man, I've been eating so many rats, even when I'm not hungry.
Really?
I didn't even think about
you
that.
Fool!
Yeah, I gotta stop eating rats.
Future Dave, we only have so many more boards we can put up in these windows, and then we'll just everything we do behind closed doors will just be on display for all the rat world to see. So
it's true. Hey, folks.
Hello. We're gonna have to build an eating fort.
We are. That's a great.
Yeah.
I think they call that a kitchen or a nook, breakfast nook.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Or they used to.
A den.
Yeah, because we are now in the distance year of 2023, folks. Mm-hmm. We're broadcasting back to you. The world has ended.
Yes.
Me and Future Tom have survived miraculously in this single Hollywood video, which is wild because I don't think there were Hollywood videos in
there was
in
at least
2000s.
There was at least one, clearly, Future Dave.
Apparently, yeah.
It had enough old Ernest movie posters lining its walls to shield it from the atomic blast. So that's how we managed to survive the brunt of nuclear winter.
They did make those out of lead.
They did.
Yeah, and we have very little. We've been eating a lot of rats, dry popcorn kernels.
Stop saying that so loud.
Sorry, I'm sorry. And we've been trying to figure out what went wrong. Maybe we can go back in time. And unfortunately, most of the videos in here have been bombed out. But we do have this return slot with a bunch of movies marked from Marco from the movie Omega Doom.
Yes, thank you, Marco from the movie Omega Doom.
Thank you so much. Because we've been watching these one by one. I guess we have power. We have power?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or are we eating the tapes to gain their knowledge? No, we have power.
Once we've watched them, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't learned anything from all these rats. Sorry.
We have some rats in the back running on a wheel to power our electricity. Future.
We're real monsters, Tom.
Listen,
anyway.
Listen, they did this to us. They forced us into this corner.
It's true. It's very true. And so, thank you, Marco, from the movie Omega Doom, because we are watching a movie from the year 1990, and that movie is called Robot Jox.
Robot Jox.
Jox.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so. Because they are just jocks,
Yeah,
right?
the plural of jocks, yes.
Yeah. Folks, this is directed by Stuart Gordon.
It sure
which
is.
If that name doesn't pop out at you right away, it's the director of Reanimator and From Beyond.
Yes,
Yeah.
and From Beyond. And I believe the writer of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And the director of Space Trekkers. And
Sure
so on
was.
And so forth.
So many
Yeah.
other delightful films. Big Stuart Gordon fans here in the year 2023.
Oh, yeah, of course. And this movie, I guess we could just talk about the movie for a while, because we're going to talk about, like, is there any technology from this future world of 1990 that could maybe help our situation?
They were able to successfully predict.
Yeah. The movie is kind of Pacific Rim. We'll talk about the world itself.
Yeah.
But it's giant robots fighting each other with humans in it, in the robots.
It's like we've in this version of the future. What year did they predict? I forget.
They don't say.
Oh, they don't say what year. Okay, but it's sometime in the future.
There was a nuclear holocaust,
and then war became outlawed. Which
yeah, and I want to talk about that later.
Might be the single funniest sentence ever in a movie.
It really is.
So instead of war, we now settle all of our disputes with giant robot fights. It's basically all of the nations of the world combined and solve all their differences by playing Risk with giant robots and to claim land and territories, which is
the narrator.
It's still war. I don't know if
yes,
you
it
noticed.
is. Well, it's less death, I guess. It is 50 years since the nuclear holocaust almost destroyed mankind. War is now outlawed, and all territorial disputes between the two great alliances are settled by single combat. And I definitely want to talk about all that.
Yeah.
Right now, I guess. Yeah, it really is. How do you like this movie?
I love robot jocks.
Yeah, so I have an interesting thing to say about this movie.
Okay. I thought I love robot jocks was the most fascinating thing anyone's ever said about this film, but go on.
Oh, I'm going to one-up you. I think this movie is good.
It is kind of
a good movie.
It is kind of good.
Yeah, I think there's some things that make it harder to realize it's good. I think there's kind of a silly execution here and there, but I think scene by scene, this movie is making good choices and has a good idea. There's a few things that that make it an issue, but so like the character of Athena, I love how weird she is. I love that she studies his naked body, that they're doing these comedic scenes that are funny. They're supposed to be weird and funny in this unique way. I like the beats of, like, for example, the escalation, which is that this is about Guy where it's his final fight. Mm-hmm. He's a robot jock.
He sure is. And he's fought 9 of his 10 required bouts.
Yep, and his 10th is a draw, so he chickens out, or he's just like, that's it, I'm done, because he wants to start a life. So it's about him sort of coming back to fight this Russian guy who hates his guts.
Just a real glorious maniac.
Yep. His manager, Tex, turns out to be a double agent, which is very
does.
funny in a lot of ways. One, because I was first like...
Okay, please, okay, yeah.
Tex showing up like, I'm Tex. At first I was like, what a weird thing to do. And then when you realize he's a Russian double agent, I'm like, oh, he's just being racist. Like, he's just like, what do Americans act like and sound like? Like, isn't that kind of what he's doing? It's like if we went to Russia and like did like a thick stereotypical accent and like dressed like Dr. Zhivago and like, wore the hat.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he was actually Russian or if he was just a double agent that got like won over by stacks of fat cash.
This is my headcanon.
Whatever they use for money in robot jocks.
He never breaks his character if it is a character. But I like that we learn that Tex is a double agent before everybody else does. That ups the stakes. We know, oh shit, Tex is there. He's gonna fuck them up. He's gonna like hurt them. And so, like, that escalates really well. The death of Tex is not only funny, but it ups the stakes as well, because it's like, at that point, they're already the final fight is underway. I like that when it's him versus the Russian, they discard the rules, and like that ups the stakes again, where they're like, this is personal.
Yeah.
Fuck the rules.
They knock the referees out of their little referee spaceship.
Yep. That's the right instinct. I like that.
They go to
when
space, future Dave.
They do. They go to space, which is its own thing. This is what I mean about the execution being silly, but the ideas, like the plot beats, because I like also that Achilles, the main character, gets his robot destroyed and has to problem solve and run around away from this giant robot. I like that when he takes that guy out in the giant robot, they fight on the ground.
Yeah.
And it keeps going. And I like that at the end, he's like, let's stop. And they stop.
And they stop.
And again, good idea, but then they give thumbs up,
then
which
they give
is
a
very
thumbs
silly.
up and fist bump, and then I kick my little hooves in the air.
Right. So, like, I like describing the main beats of this movie. Like, it's a pretty good movie. It's just funny the way they go about it.
It's got that kind of pseudo grindhouse feel to it, like a lot Stuart Gordon's other films, which puts a lot of charm into it for me. But boy, there's nothing like Tex full on diving out of a window and saying Geronimo. And that's how he kills himself.
He says, I'll see you in hell, gives a thumbs up, and then runs, grinning, to jump to his death. What a champ.
Just dives headlong. He falls something like 700 feet.
Yeah. It's, again, execution. Like, it's the idea, like, you look at a movie like Pacific Rim, where they're doing the same idea, where they're like, this is an outlandish idea, right? But we're going to take it seriously. So how do we make it funny? Get like Charlie Day to say jokes, which nothing against Charlie Day. Like, he's funny. But that's how a lot of movies do it now, right?
Yes,
where they go, get a funny guy, and then everything else is serious. This movie is like, no, let's make it all funny.
Yeah.
Let's make it all weird and funny.
Let's make it all really bizarre.
Yeah. It is. And for the most part, I think it works. I think one of the problems.
I'm interested to hear what you think one of the problems is, because I know what my issue is with the movie.
Okay.
Or the thing that I think doesn't quite work about the movie, even though I love this film.
Yeah. I think the hero needs to be recalibrated. I think when we meet him, he's like harassing a lady. And I'm like, oh no, is this the hero? It's the hero.
Sure is, Future Dave. That's what I was going to say, is that there's not a single likable character in the film.
I was going to say, he looks both 20 and 60.
Yeah.
He's like a Lovecraftian Billy Bob Thornton.
I was going to say he looks like James Remar's Animorph.
Yeah.
Like if he was turning into Beaky Buzzard from like Looney Tunes and got stuck partway.
Right. I think that would have been fine, but they make Athena kind of difficult, where she's mad at him for quitting, and then she's mad at him for coming back. And it's like, I think she's just mad.
Athena's just a maniac. Athena's almost a villain. So it's like our two main characters are not very likable.
Right, but I do think she was the closer one, because it's like when you think, oh, she's weird. Like when he wakes up and spread eagle naked, and she's there, and she's like, I carried you home. I studied your body. Like, and he is like weirded out. It was like, oh, okay, so she's like a fucking serial killer.
Yeah, because she comes from what they call tubies. Like, she is part of a group of people who have essentially been genetically engineered to be robot jock pilots. So she's like,
they're called tubies.
Yeah,
like
she's
service.
So she's like part of this group of people that have just been raised and trained in a lab from birth to pilot giant robots. Yeah. So yeah, she's gonna be a freak. Like,
yeah, and she is.
She is a weird freak.
And again, like, that's okay, but like when he quits, she's like, "Well, are you just gonna quit? Like, that's bullshit." But then when she comes back, she's like, "Fuck you, man! Why'd you come back? I was gonna do the fight." And then she hijacks the robot, and to me, that feels like they want to have their cake and eat it too with her.
Kind of, sort of. I think at first she like it is a little more mercurial than kind of makes sense, but I do sort of follow the line of logic there, where it's like she looks up to him at first because he's the legendary winner, but when he quits, she's pissed at him because it's you're just a dumb coward, and then she's all jazzed because she won the right to pilot the robot, and then he just kind of waltzes back in. It's like, psych, I want to drive the robot now.
Yeah.
And so she's like, fuck you.
I think they needed a scene where, like, there needed to be like one more little scene that signifies her going, you know what? Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this robot now.
That guy's garbage.
Yeah. And I think that would have helped because, I do
Yeah.
know that that is what she's mad about for sure.
Yeah.
But then those two lack charisma where it's like, I forget, they never show them hook up, which is,
No, they just do like two weird smooches. One is a mid-fight smooch, which is never a good idea, and it always makes your hero look like a scumbag.
Yes. Yeah, even when they're Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
it's always weird.
Yeah, it's always a little weird. And then they smooch later in the cockpit when she's like bleeding from the head.
Right. And I feel like that's a producer note where it was like,
It's like, we need a love story.
right, it didn't feel like they were supposed to be in love.
It doesn't feel supported by the narrative, right? Yeah, it does feel like very stapled on at the last minute. Like you could easily cut those kisses out, and you wouldn't need it because there's no other romantic angle to the movie.
For
you
sure.
know?
The other things that's like issue. I mean, it's a silly fucking world. It's
it's
a world
ridiculous.
where
It's completely ridiculous.
Right. We'll get into the world more, but I couldn't tell.
Obviously, we never fought with giant robots. We fought with giant tractors. Obviously,
Exactly.
you don't want to build a big robot with legs. That's dumb. You build one with wheels so it can't get tipped over.
Exactly. That goes 15 miles per hour.
We learned that the first year after the nuclear winter when we were doing the robot games.
Right.
All the leg robots fell straight fucking over. They all got rocked.
Yeah. They tip over. You ever see Star Wars?
By the robot that looked like a rock. Like that was a great design.
Yeah, which we called The Rock.
Called The Rock, and that's why we still celebrate its victory as a holiday to this day.
Rock Day?
Rock Day, yeah.
Happy Rock Day.
When is it today?
Celebrate.
Is it today?
It's not today, but it's coming up.
It's soon. It's soon. We'll let you guys know in the past when Rock Day is, so you can start marking it on your calendars.
So like the part where he falls into the bleachers, killing kids and families, our hero,
and probably Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, and probably Jeffrey Combs. It was like, I don't know what was so shocking about this. They have bleachers. Like, that's it's one of those things where like the world isn't likable, but it's also not supposed
No.
Yes, they choose not to fight at the end, but they don't push back on the world enough either.
Right, it's a fascist dystopia. Like at one point, the head of the good guys team, like Achilles' boss, I guess, the guy is like the head of, not the Confederation, I forget what the other union is called, the good guys. He shouts at the after Tex dives out the window, he's like, everybody get back down at your consoles or I'll have you shot. And it's supposed to be that's the good guy.
Yeah, so I think they needed to Hunger Game this a little more, where when they don't fight at the end, like the problem is that they keep being like, no, you're going against the rules. It has to, no, like they should want blood. The government, they should be like, fucking kill each other, we love it. And they should be mad when at the end they don't. You know what I mean? Like they should have set up a dystopian
We don't know that they're
idea.
not.
We don't know that
the movie ends right at the
thumbs
thumbs up, so they might get executed as soon as the credits roll.
Right, but we need, like, if, again, the ending of the first Hunger Games is basically them being like, you need to kill each other, why aren't you killing each other? That's what this essentially is, right? It's a Hunger Games situation.
Yeah, it's a real hungy sitch.
Yeah, so, like, we needed more of that where it feels like there is no dystopia. It's like the movie doesn't really push that idea that much. So I think it was missing that a little bit.
That there is no dystopia?
Well, that, like, they're not fighting the dystopia more. Like that,
I see.
Like, again, I felt like the government wasn't the villain nearly as much as it should have been.
Right.
If that makes sense. The final thing is just that, the effects are pretty good, but it's kind of silly.
It is.
The part
Alexander's
where the
robot has a chainsaw dick.
Yep. The part where it's just punching the other robot in the face multiple times, they go, oh my God, he's killing him. And it just looks like the robot's bullying the other robot.
It's the contrast there is really funny because in the wide shots, like the quote unquote wide shots, the effect shots of the two motion blurred robots. When he's just like rapid punching him in the face, it does look really funny. But then it cuts to the interior shot of the cockpit with Athena, and it's so violent. Like she's getting slammed around and blood's shooting out of her head. It's like really violent.
Right, and then it's like the equivalent of wedgie.
But it's like, it does look so funny just from the robot's perspective. It's like he's giving him a noogie.
It's very silly.
Yeah.
Very silly movie.
What a tremendous film,
fun.
Future Dave.
It's, I have nothing else about the overall film. We can start to explore the world if you want.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, like we said, it's after the nuclear holocaust, and I really want to break this down.
Sure.
Because I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think was the progression? So there's an obvious progression implied, but not explicitly stated, which is the idea that nuclear war was so horrific that we decided collectively to find a new solution to war, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a different theory, which is that the nuclear holocaust destroyed everything. We were living in caves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as such...
Perhaps in Hollywood videos.
In Hollywood videos, yeah. As such, we were just like fighting for literal territory, like with rocks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as we kept that going and advancing, one side just like made a robot, and the other side was like, hey, you can't do that. And then they made a robot, and then that's just how it kept going. Is like, it's just how war progressed from then on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like to imagine happened. But like the idea of how did we get to this point in this world,
it seems like too brief a time, right? It's only 50 years. It's like in that 50-year time, they had to come up with these two worldwide unions, confederations. They had to come up with this system, which this was probably not their first idea. Like I just said,
I'd love to see the others.
Yeah, our first idea after the Holocaust was stick-legged robots, and I just explained why that didn't work. That's why we celebrate Rock Day. So I do want to see the first couple of drafts of what they came up with. Was it like powerboat racing or like
I don't know,
maybe sword fights?
There's definitely pros and cons. Yeah, I love to think they all got together.
A powerlifting competition.
They were like, okay, we've decided war is illegal. Okay, crossing war out. So what do we have instead of war? And I want to know the dipshit. It was like, what if robots fought? And they were like, oh, that's perfect. We can get a war ref. Like there's a ref. They have refs for the war they're doing.
That fly around in little hover cars. It's great.
Right.
Little Fifth Element taxis.
Because what it is, it's not a war film, it's a sport film. That's what it comes down to, is they're decided, because they don't even kill each other that much, we've realized. Like, they're not supposed,
You're not supposed to, yeah.
So, like, I think they were just like, what if instead of war, we just did sports? And they're like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, let's do sports. What kind of sports? Let's invent a new sport. What if it's like wrestling, but robots? Can people gamble on it? I don't see why not. We can have a ref and, like, make it fun. And for that reason, this is an awesome world to live in.
I like that the only thing that survived the Holocaust was the military-industrial complex.
Yeah. But then we
still needed to find a way for that to exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we can't build machine guns and battleships anymore. What can we build? We can build giant robots.
Right. And that's the other aspect of this I want to point out, because I think this is a cool world to live in, right? Like where war is replaced by two guys fighting in giant robots. That's objectively great, right?
That part's pretty great. And the fact that you can sign a waiver, to be in the bleachers.
Yeah.
And you can gamble on it.
Yeah, that's fun.
You can gamble on whether or not you're about to lose your home to
That's what I was about to say.
To the gigantic Russian robot with a cock chainsaw.
This is what I wanted to point out, because they're literally before they're like, today they're fighting for Alaska. Mm-hmm. Like it's a prize in a game show. And what occurs to me is, because this is how we're doing war, it also means that war is a lot lower stakes, surprisingly, right? Like two countries go to war, only two people die now. Or
potentially.
at risk.
Or at risk, yeah.
which means they probably have wars all the time now because it's fun. Like, there's probably an element of, like, there's a ratings person. It's like the Running Man.
Achilles is on his 9th of 10 required wars.
Yeah, exactly. So
and
he's
he's not an old man.
Right. There's got to be like an agent who's running, like, who's looking at ratings and stuff, going to the government like, hey, you guys, what about Alaska? You should take Alaska, right? Like, Alaska's pretty juicy. Maybe you should have a war over it. Like, they're making wars, it feels like, at this point. Because we don't fight over Alaska now.
Not now, but that was a contested territory in the Cold War.
That's fair, yeah. But it's just very funny that it feels like, yeah, now you're just making things to war about at this point. Which,
or not a contested area, but like the idea of this conflict was swirling around during the Cold War.
Right, but like you said, 10 wars. So
Yeah.
I'm also imagining, what does this do to local governments? Where, like, I'm
they don't
imagining you live
exist.
in, like,
They do
you
not
live in, like,
exist.
Utah, and you get up one morning, someone's like, bad news. We're actually Russia now. They won us in a war. And then the
nuts.
next, and then like a week later, they're like, we're USA again. And it's like that, like,
Right,
politics.
you'd have to keep both jerseys in your home.
exactly. Like, it would be constant. You'd
Yeah.
be constantly changing because
Yeah.
these stupid robots are having idiot wars over pieces of land every fucking day.
I mean, you mean these awesome robots are having bitchin' wars.
That's true. And again, it's really like,
bodacious wars.
I can't stress, like, the fighters go to the same bar.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not war. It's sports.
It's both, Dave. Future Dave.
It's both. Yeah.
You know, it's because
warts.
sports are our gladiators.
That's true.
War is sports. Warts.
Yep. Warts.
Warts.
This movie, unfortunately, got
Spore.
some stuff right. Spore.
Yep.
People are wearing masks in this movie.
They sure are, Future Dave.
Yep. There is a limited meat supply, which is implied, or is one of those things we talk about. The government is pushing breeding. They're saying, like, oh, you get a better place because you have
You
more
get a
kids.
larger apartment if you have 5 kids.
Yep, these are all ideas and concepts we are currently thinking about and swimming around in our society.
Yep.
So that's a
Splish,
bummer.
Splash. Yeah, I wish that wasn't still like this is supposed to be satirical.
Yeah, I don't like robot jocks getting anything right.
Yeah, that should not happen.
Yeah. You want to talk about the style of this world?
Yeah, I love that everybody's dressed like G.I. Joes.
Yes. I like that instead of
Incredible.
rat tails, they have scorpion tails, I guess.
Yeah. It's just like weird. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but like all of the Tubies have the same hairstyle.
Yeah. They name them after Greek characters, I guess, but they name the fighters. That's not their real name. So the government did that, I guess.
I guess because we see an Achilles like poster, so it's
It's weird. But later, someone calls
they're
them by
also
his real name.
celebrities. Yeah.
Did you notice the fancy guy has a weird tie that's like a Star Trek badge? It's like a pendant. They were trying to do something with ties in this.
No, which guy is the fancy guy?
It was just like some guy in a suit near the beginning.
Oh,
He was like some government guy. I don't know. They were doing a thing. They like doing a thing, you know?
yeah. They like rolling the dice on fashion trends,
Yeah.
hypothetical fashion trends.
Yep. Yeah, it's future fashion.
Of course,
and I guess,
the one thing they didn't predict was that year after the Holocaust, where carrying a carrot around in your pocket became really popular.
is that a thing?
Well, it was. That's how you would give it to the rats, and that's how we'd get
Oh,
by.
right. Yes. That they didn't like the carrots. That's the problem.
That's true.
Yeah. But you could always slap them with it. You could whack a rat with a carrot, you know? It's like a bribe.
It's like
a carrot and a stick.
It's
you know?
it's nature's dagger in many ways.
Exactly. Sharpen that carrot. Don't eat them. It's disgusting, you know? Like, we didn't have much food, but we weren't gonna eat those carrots. That's for damn sure.
Definitely not stooping to eating that. Carrots come out of the ground.
Yeah, that's disgusting. The fuck. So we should probably talk about the technology here. Someone would make billions if they invented drone technology, I feel like, in this universe. Much like Pacific Rim, I feel like a steering wheel, maybe a remote control situation. There's a lot of solutions, I feel like, that they're not investigating in this world. Like Pacific Rim's the worst one, right? Where it's like,
Right.
why?
Where you just like mentally pilot the ship.
Right, and you still have to do like the physical movements at the same time.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, well, which is it, man? Like, I feel like piloting a robot, you shouldn't have to do like physical strength training, you know?
I don't know.
Like, it can't hurt.
I feel like that's how you get the best robot jocks.
That's true. Well, I liked their training, which was like loud monkey bars room, which I actually understood, which was like, if your robot falls over and you got to get the fuck out of there, that makes sense. Like, you got to wiggle out of the robots and climb things.
Yeah, it was, it was a hellacious situation. I mean, it was absurd, but also it did kind of, like, I see the logic to it, because the idea was to expose them to, we want you to do a relatively simple thing, which is climb up this thing out the hole at the top, but we're going to do all sorts of shit that you're going to experience when you're trying to drive a gigantic robot and fist fight another gigantic robot.
They, like, electrify the bars, but again, like, you could accidentally grab an electric wire on your, like, if you're climbing up a robot or out of a robot. It did make sense. It really did. Airtight.
Yeah. As airtight as his little robot cockpit that kept him safe when he went into space.
That's
to
true.
Earth's orbit.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that. Mm-hmm. They just go to space.
They just go to space. At no point, earlier in the film, at any point, do they say that that's possible.
I'm trying to
that
think
was shocking.
It's like if Captain America suddenly shapeshifted. And
Yeah.
you're like, wait, he can do that? Like
He has before. There was a series where he turned into a werewolf.
Oh, okay. Well, that's.
But I see what
werewolf
you're
rules.
saying. Yeah, if he suddenly turned into a bench.
Yeah.
Captain
It's like,
Bench.
oh, like in Infinity Wars, like in one of the last ones where it's like, wait, because that's the thing. At the end of this movie, they just casually go to space.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, wait a fucking second. We're fighting for territory.
That was always
and
an
we can
option?
just yeah. And it's like, why not travel in space?
Because, I was going to say, Future Dave, they get to space fast.
I was about to say, yeah, easily. Easy space
Yeah.
travel. That's the other part of it. It's easy. So it's like, wait, you created space vessels and you're using them to fight over oil? Am I getting that right? Like, that's ridiculous. Very silly.
Yeah, I feel
can't
like
stress that enough. They just go into space.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it is. Just go again. It's no different, honestly, than if like John McClane went into space suddenly at the end of Die Hard,
Yeah.
where it's like nothing is indicated they can do this. Nothing.
Chasing Alan Rickman into space.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I guess they can fly. It seems like that would have come up earlier, but okay.
Ties the fire hose around himself and just jumps straight up into space.
Yep. So yeah, no drone technology.
No.
Going to space. This is a lot of what they don't have. It's very funny. This is a lot of movies from this era.
Mm-hmm.
It's very funny that in giant robot movies, where they're like, it's the future, there's giant robots. They can go into space. How do they get entertainment? You know, just like TV, like now.
Yeah.
That's
like
always
TV
funny to me.
On really tiny,
internet.
weird screens. Yeah, no internet.
Yeah, just CRT TVs.
Lots of physical media still around.
Yeah, and the control room. Just CRTs, just old.
Yeah,
you know. A giant robot streaming? No. Internet? Can't imagine that.
I don't know,
That's
wildest
always great.
imaginations. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that they went real hard into the concrete, the brutalist
Oh yeah.
apartment
I was
buildings.
saying there's a
looked like-
lot.
It looked like the apartments from Demolition Man if they were in the Eastern Bloc.
Yeah, there's a lot of. You know how I feel about that.
I know
There's a
you-
lot
you-
of
you love
aesthetic
that
here.
shit.
I would live in this future for the aesthetic. I also like like I've seen this before. The future kitchen, which is the idea that in the future you don't need a kitchen. It's just cubbies that would give you the food you want. Mm-hmm. They always make it like malfunctioning, but they kind of have that here where his apartment Not like the home when they did a cool idea, which is when he visits his brother. They just live in a house, and they have a kitchen, and they're living like humans. But when he's a robot Jocks, he's like has this like future house, right?
Yeah.
Where like the coffee is just like coming out of the wall, and the food and everything is just like none of it's working quite
just
well.
Spraying out of the ceiling.
Yeah.
Coffee
But I love
deployed.
that. It's the same with like the Fifth Element,
Yeah.
like his apartment. You know, I really like that aesthetic. The like, boop boop. Here's your food, Puck. You know.
Yeah.
I know it's dystopian as hell.
Eat your cricket brick.
Yeah, but I want to try it.
Your bricket.
Bricket. That's what we would call it.
It sure is. It's what we did call it.
Yeah. They also do. Again, it's interesting because they don't call too much attention to it, but they do stuff like the automatic closet door. And then the automatic door with no knobs. I was watching that thinking like, well, that's inconvenient. And then sure enough, she breaks the door. And it's like, see? Like they pointed out of like, you know what's a great feature on doors? Knobs.
Yeah.
You really can't get enough of knobs.
We really nailed that design.
Yeah.
Not much need to improve upon it.
But it's very funny when they, when they do that and then they sort of point out how much it sucks. What do you think?
I do love when these movies predict ways in which future technology will be broken and disappointing.
Right. Like this movie is subtly doing a Brazil thing. It's just that I think part of the reason it failed, I assume this movie didn't make much money.
No.
It was also a big risk. The studio didn't want to do it apparently because it would cost so much. And then they did it. And boy, did they pay for that.
They sure did.
I think this movie needs to be less subtle
with
that stuff.
Their children continue to suffer.
Yes. I think they needed to be like, because they're subtly pointing out how stupid the future stuff is.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're doing it enough. And same with the dystopia. I think they need to be louder about it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it could have been a little bit more, because Stuart Gordon has that capacity. So I think it could have been a little. I think this could have been a little bit more RoboCop in tone.
Yes, I think he needed to RoboCop it.
I think it would have been more successful if it was a little more RoboCop,
a little more satirical, a little funnier. Because right now it's funny, but it doesn't feel always intentionally funny, and I think it is in a lot of places. But it does. You can't. Again, it's that's the beauty of RoboCop, right, and of Verhoeven, which is like sometimes people like don't realize that he's funny. I would argue. You have to be kind of thick too at times, but like, you know what I mean, where it's like there's this feeling of like it's unironic at points, but obviously he's doing satire. I think this like was too far into the subtle part where you watch it and you're not sure sometimes, Yeah,
and then other times it's like, hey, when he goes to his brother's house and his brother's wife is like, we're having meat to celebrate your retirement. And she opens the pot and it is a single hot dog.
Yeah.
Boiling in a pot of beans. That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, before its time. But like the thumbs up, for example, I couldn't tell if the giving a thumbs up was supposed to be funny because it's funny.
It's extremely funny.
If they were doing like a thing where they're like, it's like Demolition Man, where like thumbs ups are so wholesome and dumb, and then everybody's doing it to each other. It's little things like that. I feel like they had to like play up a little more.
Yeah, be a little bit sillier with it.
Have like a commercial where they're doing thumbs up a bunch, and it's like clearly stupid. I guess it's very RoboCop-y, but like something. What do you think that orb did? The bedroom orb?
I have no idea.
Everybody, in order for it to really be the future,
maybe it's a vanity. Oh, maybe it's a toilet. We don't see any toilets in this movie, I don't think.
That's true. I was just gonna say, in order to achieve future, no matter what year it is, everybody should have an orb.
Everybody needs a shape. There always needs to be an indecipherable shape somewhere in your room.
That's why we've been building our orb in this Hollywood video.
Yeah.
Out of rat shit. It's out of rat shit.
Out of rat skins.
Yeah, but it's skin stuffed with shit.
Filled with rat shit, yeah.
Yeah. But it's an orb nonetheless. It's
an orb. It really
orb.
ties the room together.
Yeah, you need an orb. You just have to have one. And he has an orb that like has like it looks like almost like a little city in there, but it's hard to tell. and it's just next to his bed. What does that orb do? I want to know.
I think whatever it does is that.
He also has a TV over his bed, but on the wrong side, where it's like you can't watch that. It's above the baseboard, the head area, and it's like, well, what are you gonna do with that TV? I guess maybe if you have chairs on the other side of the room, that just seems inconvenient.
Yeah.
Bad design.
Where are you going to put the chairs? Then there's no room for the orb.
Yeah, that's true. The orb's got to do something, man.
Maybe it's like a snow
orb
globe.
Do? Yeah, it might just be. It really might just be like something his grandma gave him
Yeah.
while she was on vacation.
Yeah.
It's not futuristic at all.
Some dumbass birthday present he got or something.
Yeah. So what out of all this can we learn? Unless there's any technology you want to shout out.
No, I think we covered it all.
I think we have to learn that in the future, meat might be scarce, our air might be limited, and the government, despite those problems, might like try to boost the population, which is a totally unrealistic prediction.
Yeah, I
That
can't
I'm sure
imagine
won't be a problem.
that'll ever come true. So don't worry
Yeah.
about that. What you really need to do is prepare for the robot wars that will undoubtedly happen.
Well, you could argue we do wars with robots now.
It's true.
They're just drones.
There's drones, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not going to
But
be
it's not
robots.
it's not resulting in less people being killed.
No, I was about to say it's right now. It's a one-sided robot war, and when Boston Dynamics gets their robots, there's going to be some poor country, I'm guessing in the Middle East, that's going to live in a Terminator timeline, while the rest of the world doesn't. Like that's the problem with robot warfare right now. Is it's just one-sided. It's just like big countries bullying other people with robots. So like give those country robots is my point.
Yeah, well, that's how you theorize this whole thing got started in the first place. So maybe that's the prediction.
Is it a crime to can I sell guns to other countries? That's
No,
probably
I
fine,
think
right?
that's fine,
And
yeah.
like weapons? Yeah. Okay.
Reagan did it.
Yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. Reagan did it. So yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we get into a problem, I'll start get into I bet you make a lot of money doing that.
Yeah. If you get into trouble, just get Robo Reagan on the phone.
Exactly.
He'll explain it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if wars were fought this way, do you think this is better or worse way to fight wars? Considering the pros and cons. I was going to say take the dystopia out of it.
Yeah, that influences my
Replace
answer.
it with the current dystopia.
I think that influences my answer a great deal because we pointed something out where there would be wars constantly and territory
Exactly.
would be constantly changing hands because it's just a game. So I actually think it's worse.
I think it might be worse.
Yeah.
I really think I don't know. It's hard to say because there'll be people listening being like, yeah, but less lives are taken. And it's like that is true.
Yes, but everybody is living on the razor's edge in this
Well, I was
universe.
going to say, less lives are taken until a lot of lives are taken because of things like starvation and instability of the world. And so that's like also I think the masks imply that the robots are polluting the air, but I think that's just our
I think it's just
dystopia.
the reality of living in a world that was decimated by a nuclear holocaust.
That's true. That's very true.
But yeah, you're right. It's instability. That's the word. Like this would create such an unstable world that it would be a nightmare.
Yeah. Here's what I would accept: a world where this is happening for little trophies.
Yeah, little
make
belts.
this- yeah,
we can make gigantic championship belts for the robots to wear.
Yeah, just real steal it. Why aren't we real
Hell
stealing?
yeah! Why aren't we
this?
real stealing? That is a genuine question. We should be real stealing, Future Dave.
We should be. We really should be.
We have to be the future that we want to see.
That's true. We should make little robots out of rat shit and skin
And skin and bones.
and bones.
And
Yeah,
bones.
and fight them.
Make them fight.
Yeah, or at least become like so hungry that that's what we think is happening.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever comes first.
Like we imagined some sort of transmitter that allows us to project into the past.
Yeah, exactly. Good movie.
Yeah, pretty solid film. Glad this one survived.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
Glad
Future
it survived the blast.
Tom. Yeah. This was we had fun. Is there any other thoughts about Robot Jocks?
No, other than it rules. It rules hard.
It kind of rules hard.
Yeah.
And people should watch it.
I think, yes.
Watch Robot Jocks for all its faults. It's a great watch.
Yeah.
So we thank you, Marco, from the movie Omega Doom, from returning this VHS
Yes.
of Robot Jocks.
You inadvertently
to watch.
saved this film, and we thank you for it.
Yeah. And boy, I think we got like maybe one more broadcast in our future, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it because I see we're nearing the end of what's in this return box.
Yeah,
but
and also I think we're running out of time with the Rat Queen.
That's true. And generally, I don't also feel like we figured out what went wrong or learned it much.
I don't feel
all
like
these
we've
movies
gotten
watched.
any closer to the answer, but who knows, Future Dave? Maybe the next tape here is going to be the key that unlocks it.
Right, but at least maybe if you were like listening to this while driving to work, it made that better, you know?
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. So there's that. So I guess until next time, folks, this was through our Patreon. That doesn't feel like what the bit is. In the
fine.
past, we had a Patreon. Patreon.com/gamefully unemployed. If you go on there in the past where you're listening to this, and maybe if you support us, our apocalypse won't happen. There we go. There's exclusive podcasts on there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, Spiel Boys. We watch movies every Friday night. We have, in fact, watched Robot Jocks.
We did.
We do it with our patrons. I should note where it's not just me and Tom privately watching movies. We watch it with our patrons. That's a tier. There's a Discord community, all sorts of stuff. Check it out. You'll love it.
Yeah, we also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store. We have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, stickers, mugs, posters, all sorts of things in the past. So check that out with your past tense peepers.
Yes, enjoy it now.
Yeah,
Because
you lucky
soon-
ducks, you have no idea how good you have it.
Yeah, you'll be making sex
Just
toys out of rat shit.
You'll be making rat orbs.
Yeah, you will. And then fucking them. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.